Before this video starts, I want to say thank you to everybody that watched the last ranking video, and because of that, I decided to make a college football playoff national championship ranking video. Since the college football playoffs have been introduced, there have only been 5 different college football programs to win a national championship. And some teams like Georgia, Alabama, and Clemson have been in the national championship multiple times. And lots of national championship games through the college football playoffs have been pretty entertaining. So without further ado, let's get to ranking these national championship games. But before that, I want to say subscribe, like, and share with your friends. Now, the first game is Ohio State versus Oregon, and this is an Oregon team that was led by Heisman winner Marcus Mariota, and the Ohio State team that was led by Ezekiel Elliott, but they had third-string quarterback Cardale Jones. And Oregon was looking for their first national championship ever, while Ohio State was looking for their first national championship in over a decade. First possession after kickoff, Oregon put together a drive that was a little over 2 minutes and 30 seconds that led to a touchdown that put them up 7-0. Then, on Ohio State's first possession, Ohio State would get stopped and have to punt the ball away. Then on Ohio State's next possession, Ohio State would be at 4th and 2, and they would go for it, and they would luckily get it. Then 2 plays later, Ohio State would score as Ezekiel Elliott would go for 33 yards for a touchdown. As now the score is 7-7, but it wouldn't be that for very long. And a couple plays later, Oregon will get called for pass interference. This will set Buckeyes up with good field position. And an Ezekiel Elliott run would set up a passing touchdown for Cardale Jones later on, making it 14-7. Ohio State Buckeyes. Then on the assuming possession by Oregon, they will have to punt it again, and it kind of looks like the game is slipping away from them. But luckily, Ezekiel Elliott fumbled a snap, and this will set the Oregon Ducks up with good field position and a chance to tie the game. And Oregon drove it all the way down the field just to go for it on 4th and goal and not get it. Then Ohio State looks like they about to score again as Corey Smith catches a pass from Cardale Jones, but as he catches it, he also fumbles it, giving the ball back to Oregon and giving them a life again. But it just wouldn't matter. Oregon would then punt it away again, and this would lead to a Cardale Jones punching it in for a touchdown. So now it's 21-7, and Oregon looked like they might be dead in the water. But before halftime, they would kick a field goal, making it 21-10. And right after halftime, Oregon would strip the ball away from Ohio State wide receiver, and Oregon would finally capitalize on an Ohio State turnover as they turned that into 7 after Marcus Mariota found Marshall for a deep touchdown. Then the possession after, Ohio State would fumble as Cardale Jones would just let the ball slip out of his hand. But luckily, Ohio State defense stayed solid and forced a field goal. And on the final play of the third quarter, Ezekiel Elliott would punch it in for a touchdown, making it 28-20. And Oregon would sadly fail to answer back as they had to punt the ball away to Ohio State again. Then Ohio State would score 2 more touchdowns to end the game, 42-20, and now they're national champions, making them the first team ever to win the college football playoffs. And you know what? We're going to put this game at A tier. And the next college football playoff national championship game is featuring Alabama versus Clemson, and they will go on to have 2 more games later on. And going into this game, Nick Saban was looking for his 5th national title, and Dabo Swinney was looking for his 1st national title. And this game started out good as both teams didn't score on their first possessions, but Derrick Henry was able to break a run for a touchdown to put the tie up. But Clemson was soon fired back as Deshaun Watson was able to find Hunter Renfrow in the end zone. Then Clemson's next offensive possession after that, Deshaun Watson again found Hunter Renfrow in the end zone. Then on the next Alabama possession, Clemson will force them to punt, and this will lead to Clemson taking over, and it looked like they could have went up 21-7. But that didn't happen as Eddie Jackson picked off Deshaun Watson, and this led to Derrick Henry scoring a touchdown. And on the first possession after halftime, Alabama will score again as Jay Coker will find O.J. Howard for a touchdown. But then Clemson will go up 24-21 as they kicked a field goal, and then after that they scored a touchdown on their next possession. Then Alabama kicked a field goal, but after that on the kickoff, they would then change the momentum completely, as Alabama decided to do an onside kick that would set them up in good field position as the score was 24-24. But soon after that, Jay Coker would find O.J. Howard once again for a touchdown to put the tie up 7. Clemson responded with a field goal, but once again, Alabama special teams came up huge, as Kenyon Drake returned a kick return for 95 yards for a touchdown. Then Clemson responded with a touchdown of their own, but then after that, Alabama responded with a touchdown of their own, making it 45-33, and this would basically end the game, as Alabama won 45-40, and Nick Saban will have his 5th national title. And I think y'all know we gotta put this game at S tier. And of course, the next season was a rematch of these 2 juggernauts. But this Alabama team will look a little bit different as now they had true freshman Jalen Hurts under center, and behind him they had Bo Scarborough. But the start of this game was a lot different than last game, as it started out 14-0 after Alabama had 2 quick touchdowns. But thankfully Clemson scored, making the score 14-7. But a couple of Clemson possessions later, Clemson would fumble, and this would lead to Alabama kicking a field goal to go up 17-7. But the score would quickly change as Clemson would score a touchdown, Deshaun Watson would find Hunter Renfrow again, and now the score is 14-17. But the score changed again as Jalen Hurts was able to find O.J. Howard for a deep touchdown that would lead to score of 24-14. And now we're in the fourth quarter, and Clemson scores 2 touchdowns to go up 28-24, as it looked like they took the momentum. But then Jalen Hurts will rush for a touchdown, making it 31-24 with a little over 2 minutes left to go. But no worries for Clemson, as they had Deshaun Watson. They put the ball in his hands, and he led them on a drive that would end in a touchdown as he threw the ball to Hunter Renfrow for the game. And Clemson will win 35-31, making it Dabo Swinney's first national title. And I think we all know we got to put this game at S tier also. And in the 2017-2018 national title game, we will see Alabama once again, but this time they're playing against Georgia. And this game will have some good storylines, as Georgia was starting true freshman Jake Fromm, and not only that, as their head coach, they had Kirby Smart, who was defensive coordinator under Nick Saban for a good amount of years. And not only that, Nick Saban is looking for a 6th national title, which would tie him with Bear Bryant for the most national title wins ever. And this game lived up to the hype, as for the most part of the first half, this game was a defensive game, as Georgia was able to get 2 field goals, but Alabama struggled moving the ball as they only had 28 passing yards. And before halftime, Georgia ended up scoring, making the score 13-0, and Alabama looked like, they were going to keep struggling to move the ball against this Georgia defense. But then Nick Saban decided to bench Jalen Hurts and put in true freshman Tua Tagovailoa. And Tua's first possession under center would end in a punt, but his second possession is where sparks would start to fly. As on the second possession, Tua would reverse field on a 3rd and 7 play and rush for the first down. Then after that, Tua decided to throw the ball to Henry Ruggs 3 times for 3 completions that ended in a touchdown, making it 7-13. Then Jake Fromm would complete a pass to Mecole Hardman, who would take it in for a touchdown, making it 20-7. Then Bama would score 2 field goals, making it 20-13, as now they just need a touchdown to tie the ball game. And well, Bama did just that, as Tua connected with Calvin Ridley in the end zone to tie the ball game 20-20. Sadly, Bama could not complete the comeback in regulation, as they missed a field goal to go up 23-20 and win the game. So now we got overtime. And Georgia would kick a field goal on the first possession of overtime to make it 23-20, and now all Bama needs to do is score a touchdown to win the game. And it didn't look like that was going to happen, as Tua was sacked for a big loss on first down of their possession. But the very next play, he made up for it, as Tua connected a deep bomb to Devontae Smith for a touchdown and to win the national championship. And I think we gotta put this game at S tier, as it had everything. It had great defense, it had good offense late in the game, it had late game heroics, and it had good storylines, as you had Kirby Smart versus Nick Saban, and you had the 2 true freshman quarterbacks battling it out. And the next national championship game is, Alabama versus Clemson, but this time Tua is the veteran, and now Trevor Lawrence is the true freshman stepping in for Clemson. And I think it's safe to say that this game did not nowhere near live up to the hype as the first 2 games that they played in the national championship. On the first drive of this game, AJ Terrell intercepted Tua Tagovailoa that ended up being returned for a touchdown. Then Bama will respond with a touchdown, and then both teams will each trade touchdowns, making it 14-13 as Bama missed an extra point attempt. Then Bama kicked a field goal to go up 16-14, but after that it was all Clemson. As Clemson went on to win the game 44-16, and they scored a handful of touchdowns, and Bama could not stop them. And you know what? We got our first F-tier game of the college football playoff national championship games. And once again, we'll end up seeing Clemson in the national championship game the next year, but instead of Alabama, they'll be playing LSU. And this was the LSU team that featured Joe Burrow, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Thaddeus Moss, Terrence Marshall, Jamar Chase, and Justin Jefferson. And this game was pretty good, as it started off as both teams ended up trading touchdowns, making it 7-7, and then Clemson kicked a field goal, making it 10-7. Then after that, Justin Ross caught a pass, returned that for a touchdown, and made it 17-7. And LSU will respond in a big way, as they went on to score 3 straight touchdowns, making it 28-17 right before halftime. And after halftime, Clemson ended up scoring a touchdown, cutting the lead to 25-28. Then LSU would go on to score 2 more touchdowns, making it 42-25 and end the game after Trevor Lawrence fumbled the ball with 3 minutes left. And LSU ended up winning this game 42-25. And you know what? We're going to put this game at B tier. And in the 2020 National Championship, we had Alabama versus Ohio State. And this was the Alabama team that had Devontae Smith and Jalen Waddle on the outside and Mac Jones under center. And you know what? This game kind of looked good at the beginning as both teams scored touchdowns, making it 14-14. Then Bama would go on to score 3 straight touchdowns, making it 35-17, and this would end the game. As Bama won 52-24, as after the first quarter, Bama took over and didn't allow Ohio State back in the game. And I think we got to put this game at D tier. If you want to put it at C tier, you can. I'm going to put it at D tier. And this next national championship game is not made for the people that love the offensive side of the ball, as this game featured Georgia versus Alabama again. And this is the Alabama team that beat Georgia in the SEC championship game to be able to make it to the playoffs. But Alabama was going to be down John Mechie III, who got injured in the SEC championship game. And in the first quarter of this game, the score was 3-0 at the end. And Georgia ended up scoring a field goal, also tied the game 3-3. But after that, Alabama will look to score, as Bryce Young completed a deep pass to Jamison Williams. But Jamison Williams, after the catch, tore his ACL and will be out the rest of the game. As now Bama is out of their 2 best pass catchers in John Mechie and Jamison Williams. And after this, Bama ended up scoring a field goal, making it 6-3. Bama eventually gets the ball back and looked like they about to score after Bryce Young connected with Cam Latu for a big game. But thankfully, Georgia defense stayed solid and made Alabama kick a field goal. And at halftime, this score was 6-9 as Bama had the lead, and no team was really able to gain command of this game. And the script was pretty similar in the second half, but finally near the end of the third quarter, Georgia scored the first touchdown of the game. And then after that, Bama kicked the field goal, making it 12-13. But after that, Stetson Bennett fumbled in the fourth quarter, and it was recovered by Bama, setting Bama up with good field position. Bama would then capitalize as Cam Latu scored a touchdown, making it 18-13. Then after that, Georgia responded as Stetson Bennett threw the ball to A.D. Mitchell for a touchdown on a free play. Georgia would then stop Bama and then score again after Brock Bowers took it in for a touchdown, making it 28-18. And this game was capped off after Keely Ringo picked off Bryce Young for a pick 6 and end the game. And I think we got to put the game at S tier. Even though it was an offensive game, it was a great defensive game. And the last national championship game is TCU versus Georgia. And honestly, this game was not close. The game was honestly terrible for lots of fans. Although I was a TCU hater last year, the Horned Frogs. I enjoyed this blowout, watched every quarter of it. Georgia won like 65-7, something like that. This game was over really in the first quarter, but you want to make it in somewhere in the second quarter. So yeah, F tier game. Although for me, sometimes, it might be an S tier game. Horned Frogs. And as you can see, the college football playoff national championship games, most have been good. As you had a bunch of S tier games, an A tier game, and a D tier game, and a B tier game. And I mean, you only had 2 games where you can go to sleep and just not care about what happens. And well, that's all for today's video. Appreciate y'all watching. And for next time, I'm out. Peace.